Did you own any of these things in 1970? Then you were living like royalty, my friend. Not just comfortable, rich. The kind of rich where neighbors whispered about you at block parties, where kids pressed their noses against your windows, where you felt that electric thrill every time you walked through your front door. We're talking about possessions that didn't just cost money. They announced you'd arrived. Today, we're journeying back to 1970, when wealth wasn't measured in apps or streaming subscriptions, but intangible, glorious things you could touch, show off, and make everyone else deeply, wonderfully jealous. These weren't just products. They were status symbols that separated the haves from the have-nots. And if your family had even 2 or 3 of these, you were living in a different universe than most Americans. Let me take you back to the centerpiece of every wealthy living room in 1970, the color television console. Picture this, a massive piece of furniture, not some flimsy plastic box, but a solid wood cabinet that weighed 200 pounds and commanded an entire wall. The screen was maybe 25 inches diagonally, curved glass that reflected lamplight when it was off. But when you turned it on, that's when the magic happened. You'd hear the click of the power knob, then a low hum as the tubes warmed up. The screen would glow faintly at first, then bloom into color. Not the crisp, perfect color we have now, but saturated, almost dreamlike hues that made everything look slightly more vibrant than real life. The wood grain on that cabinet was real walnut or mahogany, hand-finished, with brass hardware that caught the light. Inside, you had vacuum tubes the size of your thumb, a chassis full of hand-soldered connections, and a tuner that pulled in maybe 7 or 8 channels if you were lucky. This wasn't a television. It was furniture, an investment, a statement. Most families were still watching grainy black and white sets with rabbit ear antennas. But you were watching Laugh-In and Bonanza in full color, and everyone who walked into your house knew instantly that you had money. Your parents probably paid $500 to $700 for that console, the equivalent of $4,000 to $5,500 today. Can you remember the weight of that remote control, if you even had one? The satisfying chunk of those mechanical channel buttons? Now let's talk about what sat next to that television, the component stereo system. Not one of those cheap all-in-one record players with the tinny speaker. I'm talking about separate components, a receiver, a turntable, and speakers that stood 3 feet tall. The receiver was the brain, brushed aluminum faceplate gleaming with VU meters that danced when the music played, their needles bouncing to the bass line like they were alive. You had knobs for treble, bass, balance, real control over your sound. The turntable sat on its own isolated base to prevent vibrations, with a tone arm that floated on bearings so precise you could balance a coin on the head shell while a record played. That needle, we called it a stylus, cost $50 to replace, and it read the grooves of your vinyl with such delicacy you could hear the breath between a singer's words. The speakers were the real showstoppers though. Massive wooden cabinets housing 12-inch woofers, mid-range drivers, and tweeters that could reproduce frequencies your neighbors 3 houses down could feel in their chests. When you dropped the needle on a new album, let's say Santana's Abraxas or Creedence's Cosmos Factory, the sound didn't just fill the room, it transformed it. You could hear every instrument distinctly, positioned in space like the band was performing in your living room. The system cost $800, maybe $2,100 if you went for Macintosh or Marantz components. That's $6,000 to $9,500 in today's money just to listen to music. But the sound, oh, the sound made your chest vibrate and your soul expand. Do you remember adjusting those knobs, trying to get the sound just right, feeling like you were conducting an orchestra? Step into the kitchen now, where wealth revealed itself in harvest gold and avocado green appliances that cost a fortune. The automatic dishwasher was still a luxury in 1970. Only about 25% of American homes had one. Yours was built into the cabinetry, heavy steel construction with racks that rolled out on the ball bearing, smooth as silk. You'd load the dinner plate still streaked with meatloaf and mashed potatoes, add Add that powder detergent that smelled like artificial lemons and chemistry, then turn the dial. The machine would fill with hot water and you'd hear it, that rhythmic swishing, the arms inside spinning and spraying, the occasional clink of a fork settling against a plate. 45 minutes later, everything emerged steaming hot and spotless. No towel drying required. Your mother's friends didn't have this. They stood at their sinks every night, hands in rubber gloves, scrubbing, but not your mother. She had a dishwasher, which meant she had time, which meant your family had money. That appliance cost $250 installed, nearly $2,000 today. Right next to it sat the side-by-side refrigerator freezer, another status symbol that screamed wealth. Most families had small refrigerators with tiny freezer compartments barely big enough for 2 ice cube trays. Your refrigerator was different, 6 feet tall with full-length doors and an automatic ice maker that dropped fresh cubes into a bin with a satisfying clatter throughout the day. The freezer held a month's worth of food, pot pies, frozen vegetables in boxes, half a cow if your family bought a side of beef. The refrigerator side had crisper drawers for vegetables, door shelves for milk and juice, and meat keepers where the cold was most consistent. When you opened those doors, the interior light was bright white, and cold air spilled out in visible waves, carrying the mingled scent of fresh milk, cold cuts, and that particular metallic smell of frost-free cooling. This appliance cost $450, $3,500 in current dollars. Can you still hear that ice maker dropping cubes at 3 a.m.? That sound that meant your family never ran out of anything? In the driveway sat another unmistakable marker of wealth, the riding lawnmower. Not a push mower that you wrestled across the yard in the summer heat, your shirt soaked through after 20 minutes. I'm talking about a machine you drove like a tiny tractor, sitting high on a padded seat, steering wheel in your hands, engine rumbling between your legs. The wealthy models in 1970 were built like small farm equipment, cast iron engine blocks, steel cutting decks, transmissions with actual gears you shifted with a lever. You'd prime the carburetor with 3 pumps, pull out the choke, then yank that starter cord or turn the key if you had the electric start model. The engine would cough once, twice, then roar to life with a deep, throaty sound that announced to every neighbor within earshot that you weren't pushing anything. The smell hit you immediately. Hot engine oil mixing with cut grass and gasoline fumes, a scent that somehow meant summer and prosperity all at once. These machines had cutting decks 36 to 42 inches wide, multiple blade heights you adjusted with a lever, and enough power to pull a small cart behind them. Your father would spend Saturday mornings cruising the yard in geometric patterns, creating those professional-looking stripes in the lawn that marked your property as exceptional. Most dads were still pushing lawn boys in the heat, taking breaks every 15 minutes to wipe their faces. But your dad sat in relative comfort, maybe even enjoying the work a little, because he had a machine that cost $600 to $900. That's $4,700 to $7,000 today just to cut grass. The neighborhood kids would stop their bikes to watch him drive by, probably imagining themselves behind that wheel. Do you remember begging to drive it even just once around the yard, feeling the vibration of all that power under your control? Now walk back inside and climb the stairs to the master bedroom, where another luxury awaited, the central air conditioning system. In 1970, most American homes still relied on window units if they had cooling at all, or simply suffered through summer with box fans and open windows. But not your house. Your house had a condenser unit outside the size of a washing machine, humming constantly from June through September, and vents in every room delivering cold air that made the whole place feel like a completely different climate. The thermostat on the wall was a mechanical marvel, a round dial you could set to any temperature you wanted, and the system would maintain it automatically. When the air kicked on, you'd hear the registers whisper open, then feel that first blast of cold air rolling across your skin, carrying away the humidity and heat. The system worked through a complex dance of refrigerant, compressor, and evaporator coils. Outside, the compressor squeezed squeezed refrigerant gas until it became liquid, releasing heat into the outdoor air through finned coils. That hot liquid traveled through copper lines into your house, where it passed through an expansion valve and evaporated back into gas inside the air handler, absorbing heat from your home's air in the process. A blower pushed that cooled air through sheet metal ductwork, running through your walls and ceilings, delivering comfort to every corner of every room. The installation cost $2,500 to $3,500, roughly $19,500 to $27,500 in today's money. Summer nights, you'd sleep under actual blankets while your friends sweated in their beds, oscillating fans doing little but moving hot air around. You could wear long sleeves in July inside your house. You could bake cookies in August without turning your kitchen into an oven. Can you still feel that first shock of cold air when you'd come inside from playing, your sweaty skin prickling with goosebumps, your breath visible for just a second in the frigid entryway? Let's move to your father's wrist, where time itself was a luxury item. The automatic wristwatch he wore wasn't a cheap Timex that ticked with mechanical regularity. It was a Swiss-made automatic, probably a Rolex Oyster Perpetual or an Omega Seamaster, with a movement so complex it contained over 100 individual parts smaller than grains of rice. The watch had no battery. Instead, it wound itself through the motion of his arm. Inside the case, a semicircular rotor weight spun on bearings with every movement, winding the mainspring that powered the entire mechanism through an intricate system of gears, levers, and a balance wheel, oscillating 5 or 6 times per second, regulated by a tiny hairspring thinner than human hair. The watch kept time accurate to within a few seconds per day. The case was solid stainless steel or gold. The crystal was scratch-resistant sapphire, and the bracelet had individual links that caught the light and moved like liquid metal across his wrist. When you held that watch to your ear, you heard the rapid tick-tick-tick of the escapement, a sound that represented centuries of horological mastery. The dial was often simple: clean markers, luminous hands coated with tritium that glowed faintly in the dark, maybe a date window at 3 o'clock. But that simplicity was deceptive, creating a watch that could operate continuously, self-winding, waterproof to 100 meters, shock-resistant, and accurate despite temperature changes and magnetic fields, required engineering precision measured in microns. Your father's watch cost $300 to $1,000, depending on the brand and model, $350 to $700 in current dollars. Most men wore $15 wind-up watches that they reset twice a week, but your father never wound his watch, never adjusted it, just put it on every morning, and it was always right. That watch would still be running today, 55 years later, if he maintained it. Can you picture that watch on his wrist during dinner, catching the light as he cut his steak? That small golden or silver circle that marked him as someone who'd made it. In the garage, possibly behind a locked door, sat something that made teenage boys weak in the knees. The home workshop with power tools, not a hammer and screwdriver hanging on nails. I'm talking about a full workshop with a table saw, a drill press, a belt sander, and maybe even a wood lathe. Machines that could cut, shape, and transform raw lumber into furniture, toys, or whatever your father imagined. The table saw was the centerpiece, a cast iron table weighing 300 pounds with a 10-inch carbide-tipped blade that spun at 3,150 revolutions per minute. You'd flip the switch and hear the motor wind up, that rising whine that made your teeth vibrate. Then the blade would appear above the table, spinning so fast it looked like a silver disc. The fence, a guide rail you adjusted for precise cuts, locked down with heavy knobs, and when you pushed a board through, the blade bit into the wood with a high-pitched scream, sending a stream of sawdust arcing away from the cut. The smell was incredible. Fresh-cut pine releasing its resin, oak's earthy sweetness, walnut's rich darkness. Each wood had its own scent, and they mixed with the hot metal smell of the blade and the ozone from the motor's brushes. The drill press stood beside it, a column-mounted motor with a chuck that could grip bits from pencil-thin to half-inch thick. You'd pull the handle down, and the bit would descend ground into the wood with mechanical precision, creating perfectly perpendicular holes every time. These weren't toys. These were industrial-grade machines, the same equipment professional cabinet makers used, just smaller. A basic workshop setup cost $800 to $1,500, $6,250 to $11,700 today. Most fathers had a handsaw and maybe an electric drill, but your father could build anything, and every bookshelf, every cabinet, every wooden toy in your house carried his maker's mark and proved your family could afford the tools of creation itself. Do you remember watching him work? The safety glasses on his face, the concentration, the way rough lumber became something beautiful and useful in his hands. Parked in the other bay of that garage, or maybe sitting under a protective cover in the driveway, was the second car. Not just any second car, but a sporty convertible or a sleek personal luxury coupe, something your mother drove that had nothing to do with practicality. We're talking about a Ford Mustang with its long hood and short deck, a Chevrolet Corvette with its fiberglass body and chrome side pipes, or maybe a Cadillac Eldorado with its front-wheel drive and hidden headlamps. This car had bucket seats wrapped in vinyl or leather, a console between them with a floor-mounted shifter if it was a manual transmission, and a dashboard that curved toward the driver like a cockpit. The convertible top, if it had one, was canvas or vinyl that folded down into a well behind the rear seat, operated by electric motors or manual latches depending on the model. When that top was down and you were cruising on a Saturday afternoon, wind whipping through your mother's hair, radio playing Bridge Over Troubled Water or Let It Be, the whole world could see your family had money to burn on a second vehicle that served no purpose except pleasure. The engine in these cars was often a V8, sometimes a small block 3T7 or 350, sometimes a big block 454 that gulped premium gasoline and produced a rumble you could feel in your chest from a block away. Most families in 1970 had one car, maybe a station wagon or sedan that Dad drove to work and Mom used for errands when he was home. Having two cars meant your family could split up, go different directions, maintain separate schedules. Having a second car that was sporty or luxurious meant you had moved beyond necessity into pure indulgence. That second car cost $35,100 to $6,500, $28,300 to $50,700 today, just for fun. Can you remember sitting in that back seat, the wind making conversation impossible, feeling the rumble of the engine through the frame, watching other drivers' faces as they realized your family was different? Back inside, tucked into the family room or den, was another status symbol that combined luxury with cutting-edge technology. The reel-to-reel tape recorder, not a cassette deck. Those were still new and low quality in 1970. I'm talking about a real tape machine with two large reels, 7 or 10 inches across, spinning hypnotically as they recorded or played back sound, with quality that rivaled the best vinyl records. The machine sat on its own stand or shelf, usually silver and black, with VU meters, multiple knobs for recording level, and a row of heavy switches that engaged play, record, fast forward, and rewind with satisfying mechanical clicks. The tape itself was quarter-inch wide magnetic tape, either standard or chromium dioxide formulation, wound on metal reels that you threaded through the machine's tape path, past the erase head, the record head, the playback head, around a capstan and pinch roller that pulled the tape at exactly 7.5 inches per second for high-quality recordings. When you hit record, those meters would jump to life, their needles dancing in the red zone if you set the levels too hot, and the tape would begin its journey from the supply reel to the take-up reel, capturing every sound in the room onto magnetic particles aligned by the record head's electromagnetic field. You could record your own voice and play it back immediately, hearing yourself exactly as others heard you, a strange, humbling experience. You could record albums onto tape, creating a personal music library. You could record radio programs, family gatherings, birthday parties, preserving moments in their full sonic detail. The quality was astonishing. Frequency frequency response from 30 Hz to 20 kHz, minimal distortion, dynamic range that captured everything from whispers to full orchestral crescendos. A quality reel-to-reel machine cost $400 to $800, $30,000 to $6,250 in current money. Blank tape reels cost $5 to $10 each. This wasn't casual listening. This was serious audio, the kind that audiophiles obsessed over, and having one meant you cared about sound quality at a level most people couldn't comprehend. Can you remember watching those reels spin, mesmerized by their circular dance, the tape catching the light as it flickered past the playback head, knowing that sound itself was somehow captured in that thin brown ribbon? In the driveway, probably waxed and gleaming, sat the crown jewel of 1970s wealth. The luxury automobile. Not just any car, but a Cadillac DeVille, a Lincoln Continental, or a Chrysler Imperial. Land yachts measuring over 18 feet long, weighing 2.5 tons, powered by V8 engines displacing 7.5 liters and producing effortless torque that could merge onto highways without the slightest strain. The exterior was chrome and steel, real metal that would crumple in an accident but felt solid and substantial, in a way modern cars never do. The paint was deep and glossy, applied in multiple coats and hand-rubbed to a mirror finish. Open the door. It weighed 40 pounds and closed with a solid thunk that resonated through the frame, and you entered a different world. The seats were genuine leather, not vinyl, and they weren't just padded, they were pillowed, with springs and foam that cradled you like a living room sofa. The dashboard stretched forever, real wood veneer inlays catching the light, surrounded by chrome trim that reflected your face in its curves. The steering wheel was huge, nearly horizontal, wrapped in leather or wood, and it required minimal effort to turn because these cars had power steering that made the 4,000-pound vehicle feel light as a bicycle. Power windows, power seats with multiple adjustments, power door, locks. Everything moved at the touch of a button, motors whirring inside the doors and seats. The climate control maintained whatever temperature you selected, mixing hot and cold air automatically. The radio pulled in AM and FM stations through a power antenna that rose from the fender when you turned the radio on. And the ride was like floating on a cloud. These cars had suspension systems with coil springs, shock absorbers, and anti-roll bars tuned for one thing: comfort. They soaked up potholes and railroad tracks like they didn't exist. You could place a cup of coffee on the dashboard and drive for miles without spilling a drop. The engine was so quiet at idle, you had to check the gauges to know it was running. These luxury cars cost $6,000 to $8,000, $46,800 to $62,500 today. And they announced to everyone at the country club, the supermarket, the church parking lot that you had achieved success. Most families drove compact sedans or station wagons that rattled and strained, but you rode in climate-controlled silence, surrounded by leather and wood, insulated from the world outside. Can you remember the smell of that leather interior heating in the summer sun? The way the seat would be almost too hot to touch until the air conditioning kicked in and cooled everything down. Walk back into the house one more time, up to what might have been a spare bedroom or a corner of the basement, where the truly forward-thinking wealthy families had installed something that seemed like science fiction: the home intercom system. This wasn't a baby monitor or a walkie-talkie. This was a hardwired communication network running through your walls, with a master station in the kitchen and remote stations in bedrooms, the garage, maybe even outside by the pool. The master unit was the size of a large radio, built into the wall or mounted on the counter, with a speaker, a microphone, and a row of buttons, one for each room in the house. Your mother could press the button for your bedroom, speak into the microphone, and her voice would emerge from the speaker in your room, telling you dinner was ready or to come downstairs. You could press the talkback button and reply without leaving your bed. Some systems even had a radio built in, so you could pipe music throughout the house, the same station playing in every room simultaneously. The installation required running shielded cable through the walls during construction or renovation, mounting speakers and amplifiers, and connecting everything to a central control unit that routed audio signals to the correct destinations. The sound quality was surprisingly good, clear enough for normal conversation, with a slight hollow quality that made every announcement feel official and important. These systems cost $500 to $1,000 installed, $3,900 to $7,800 today, just to avoid walking upstairs to tell someone something. But it wasn't really about convenience. It was about living in a house so large, so sprawling, that you needed technology to communicate within it. It was about showing visitors that your home was modern, sophisticated, wired for the future. Most families yelled up the stairs or sent a sibling to deliver messages. But in your house, voices traveled through wires hidden in the walls, invisible and instantaneous. Do you remember hearing your mother's voice crackling through that speaker, how it made the house feel both bigger and more connected at the same time? In the living room or study, mounted on the wall or sitting on a special stand, was something that separated serious families from everyone else. The home library of hardcover books. Not paperbacks, not book club editions, but genuine hardcover books with dust jackets, sewn bindings, and acid-free paper that would last generations. We're talking about complete sets. The Encyclopedia Britannica with its 24 volumes bound in simulated leather, each volume weighing several pounds, containing the sum of human knowledge as of 1970, or the great books of the Western world. 54 volumes of philosophy, literature, science, and history, from Homer to Freud. These weren't books you read casually. These were reference works, educational investments, physical proof that your family valued knowledge and had the money to acquire it. The Encyclopedia Britannica cost $400 for the complete set, $30,100 today, and salesmen went door to door selling them on payment plans because most families couldn't afford the full price at once. But your family paid cash. The books sat on custom shelving, often floor to ceiling, organized by subject or author. The smell was distinctive, that particular scent of paper and binding glue and dust that accumulated despite regular dusting, a smell that meant learning and permanence. When you pulled a volume down, it was heavy, substantial, the pages edged in gold or marbled patterns. The text was printed in multiple columns with thousands of illustrations, maps, and photographs. If you needed to know something, the capital of Ceylon, the life cycle of butterflies, the causes of the French Revolution, you didn't have Google or Wikipedia. You had these books, and knowing how to use them, how to navigate the index and cross-references, was its own form of literacy. Having this library meant your children would have advantages, access to information other kids didn't have. It meant homework projects could be more thorough, school reports more detailed. It meant intellectual curiosity could be satisfied immediately, right there in your own home. Can you remember running your finger along those spines, pulling out a random volume just to look at the pictures, feeling the weight of all that knowledge literally in your hands? Now let's venture into the den or the rec room, where another technological marvel sat, the Super 8 movie camera and projector system. Not the cheap Polaroid instant camera, but a real motion picture camera that captured your family's life on film that would last forever. The camera was metal and leather, surprisingly heavy, with a zoom lens that extended when you twisted the barrel, a viewfinder you pressed your eye against, and a trigger that started the motor whirring. Inside, a 50-foot cartridge of Kodak film, advanced frame by frame, 18 frames per second. Each frame a tiny rectangle of chemically treated celluloid that captured light and color. The camera ran on batteries and you could hear them working, a mechanical buzz that meant memories were being recorded. Filming required thought and planning because each cartridge gave you only 3 minutes and 20 seconds of footage, and processing cost money. You filmed birthday parties, Christmas mornings, vacations to national parks, graduations, the important moments, not the everyday mundane. Then you'd send the cartridge to Kodak in a prepaid mailer, and 2 weeks later it would return as a reel of developed film, the images now permanent. The projector was even more substantial than the camera. A heavy metal box with a bright bulb that got hot enough to burn skin, a gate where the film passed through, and sprockets that engaged the film's perforations to advance it frame by frame. You'd thread the film through the labyrinth of guides and rollers, turn off the lights, flip the switch, and suddenly your wall would come alive with moving images of yourselves. The projector's fan would hum, the film would clatter through the gate, and there you'd be, younger, smaller, frozen in moments you'd otherwise forget. The colors were rich, slightly oversaturated with a quality that was undeniably film. Every screening was an event. The whole family gathered in the darkened room, watching themselves, narrating scenes, laughing at forgotten moments. The camera cost $150 to $300, the projector another $150 to $250, and film and processing ran about $5 per cartridge, while $170 to $2,140 for the equipment, $39 per cartridge in today's dollars. Most families had snapshots and albums if they were lucky, but you had movies, moving pictures, actual cinema of your own life. Can you remember the smell of that hot projector bulb, the sound of the film racing through the gate, the ghostly dance of light and shadow before the image focused on the wall? Outside, if you were really wealthy, sat the ultimate luxury of 1970, the in-ground swimming pool, not an above-ground pool that sat on your lawn like a giant blue cylinder. I'm talking about a pool dug into the earth, walls constructed of reinforced concrete or gunite, lined with plaster or tile, surrounded by a concrete deck that absorbed the summer heat and burned your feet if you walked on it barefoot at noon. The pool was probably kidney-shaped. That was the style. Maybe 20 feet by 40 feet, with a shallow end starting at 3 feet and a deep end plunging to 8 or 9 feet. A diving board cantilevered over the deep end, the aluminum surface textured for grip, bouncing under your weight as you walked to the edge. The water was chemically balanced, chlorinated, and pH adjusted, filtered continuously through a pump house that hummed day and night. Inside that pump house sat a motor driving an impeller that pulled water from the pool through skimmers, pushed it through a sand filter that trapped dirt and debris, treated it with chlorine from an automatic feeder, and returned it through jets along the pool walls. The system cycled the entire pool volume every 8 hours, maintaining crystal clarity. The water sparkled in the sunlight, reflecting and refracting in patterns that danced across the deck. You could see the bottom clearly, even in the deep end. The drain cover, the plaster's slight texture, occasionally a leaf that had escaped the skimmer. The smell of chlorine hung in the air, mixing with coconut-scented suntan oil and the heated concrete's mineral scent. An in-ground pool cost $5,000 to $10,000 installed, $39,000 to $78,000 in current dollars. Then you had ongoing costs, chemicals, electricity for the pump, water to replace evaporation, opening and closing it each season. Most kids swam at public pools or lakes or didn't swim at all, but you had your own pool, your own private recreation facility, and every friend you had wanted to come to your house every summer day. Your parents threw pool parties where adults stood in the shallow end with drinks, and being invited meant you were part of an elite social circle. Can you still feel that shock of cold water on your sun-heated skin, that moment of submersion when all sound changed and you were weightless, suspended in your family's private aquatic paradise? Chunk 4. Tucked away in a closet or displayed on a special luggage rack was another subtle marker of wealth, the matched set of hard-shell luggage. Not soft-sided bags or duffel bags held together with duct tape, but genuine Samsonite or American Tourister hard-shell cases in coordinating colors. Usually a sophisticated combination like royal blue, burgundy, or that distinctive burnt orange that screamed 1970s sophistication. These weren't flimsy pieces. Each case was molded from high-impact ABS plastic or aluminum, with reinforced corners, chrome latches that snapped closed with authority, and a leather handle wrapped and stitched by hand. Inside, the cases were lined with fabric, often a colorful print, with elastic straps to hold clothing in place, and zippered pockets for smaller items. The set usually included a large checked case, a medium case, a carry-on, and a train case for toiletries, 4 pieces that nested together for storage. The combined weight when empty was substantial, maybe 30 pounds, but that weight meant durability. These cases could be thrown from baggage carts, stacked under bus seats, dragged across gravel driveways, and they'd survive without a scratch. But more than durability, matched luggage announced that your family traveled. Not a single vacation to visit relatives, but regular trips, maybe to Florida in winter, to national parks in summer, perhaps even international destinations if your father's business was really successful. At the airport, when your family walked through the terminal with matching cases, other travelers noticed. The luggage identified you as experienced, sophisticated, the kind of people who knew about travel and could afford to do it regularly. A quality 4-piece set cost $200 to $160 to $320 today, just for bags. Most families packed clothes in cardboard suitcases or borrowed bags, mismatched and worn. But your family had luggage that matched your outfits, professional and polished. Can you remember the smell of that new luggage, plastic and leather and possibility, or the sound of those latches clicking open in a hotel room somewhere far from home? In the master bedroom, your mother had another luxury that separated her from other women in the neighborhood: the fur coat. Not a cloth coat with a fur collar, but a genuine full-length fur, mink, fox, or chinchilla that hung in the closet inside a breathable garment bag during summer and emerged each fall like a queen making an entrance. The coat was heavy, surprisingly so. Each pelt carefully matched for color and pattern, sewn together by furriers who spent years learning their craft. The fur was dense and soft, thousands of individual hairs catching the light and creating depth that no synthetic could replicate. When your mother wore it, the coat moved with her, flowing like liquid, making even a simple walk from the car to the restaurant entrance look like a red carpet moment. The satin lining inside was usually embroidered with the furrier's label, a mark of authenticity and quality. The coat required special care, professional cleaning once a year, cold storage during summer months to prevent the pelts from drying out, repairs to reinforce seams that bore the weight of all that fur. A full-length mink coat cost $2,000 to $5,000 in 1970, $1,600 to $39,000 today. More than many families paid for a car. This wasn't clothing. This was wealth you wore, status wrapped around your shoulders. At church on Sunday, at the symphony, at any formal event, that coat announced your family's position before you spoke a word. Other women wore wool or synthetic fibers, practical and warm, but ordinary. Your mother wore fur, and the whisper of envy followed her everywhere. The smell was distinctive too, a combination of the pelts themselves, the cedar storage, and whatever perfume your mother wore. Can you remember touching that fur as a child? Running your fingers through it, feeling something impossibly soft and luxurious, understanding even then that this was special. Down in the basement or in a dedicated room, some wealthy families had installed something that combined entertainment and sophistication. The wet bar, not just a liquor cabinet, but a complete bar setup with a counter, bar stools, a sink with running water, a small refrigerator for mixers and garnishes, and glass shelving backlit to display bottles like amber jewels. The counter was often leather padded or topped with laminate in a wood grain pattern, with brass foot rails running along the bottom where guests could rest their feet. The bar stools swiveled and had padded seats, sometimes matching the family room furniture. Behind the bar, the bottles stood at attention: scotch, bourbon, gin, vodka, vermouth for martinis, liqueurs in exotic shapes and colors. Your father played bartender at parties, mixing old fashions and Manhattans, Tom Collins and whiskey sours, using actual bar tools: a stainless steel shaker, a strainer, a muddler for crushing sugar cubes and mint, a jigger for measuring precise portions. Ice came from an ice bucket, often stainless steel steel or crystal, with tongs instead of fingers. The glassware was specific. Highball glasses, old-fashioned glasses, martini glasses with their distinctive V-shape, each type designed for particular drinks. The sink meant your father could rinse glasses, add water to whiskey, dispose of ice without running upstairs. The mini fridge held tonic water, club soda, Coca-Cola, maraschino cherries, cocktail onions, olives on toothpicks. A complete wet bar installation cost $800 to $2,000, $6,150 to $15,600 today to create a space dedicated entirely to adult entertainment. Most families served drinks from bottles kept in a kitchen cabinet if they served alcohol at all. But your family had a bar, and your parents hosted cocktail parties where men wore sport coats and women wore dresses, where conversation flowed as freely as the drinks, where being invited meant you were part of the social elite. Can you remember the clink of ice against glass, the sound of adults laughing, the exotic smell of different liquors mingling with cigarette smoke, feeling very grown up being allowed to deliver snacks to the guests? In the study or home office, your father had something that marked him as a serious professional: the electric typewriter. Not a manual typewriter where you had to slam the keys with force to make an impression through carbon paper, but an IBM Selectric or similar electric model that typed with the touch of a finger. The Selectric was revolutionary. Instead of individual type bars, it used a golf ball-sized element that rotated and tilted to strike the ribbon with the correct character. When you typed, the ball spun and moved at incredible speed, letters appearing on the page almost magically, and the carriage stayed still while the ball moved across the page. The sound was distinctive, a rapid staccato clatter, different from the mechanical chunk of manual typewriters, smoother and faster. The keys required minimal pressure, had a slight give under your fingers, and responded immediately. You could type 60, 70, 80 words per minute without your hands cramping, without making mistakes that required whiteout to fix. The typewriter came with multiple type elements you could swap out, different fonts, different sizes, even italics, giving you typography options that seemed impossibly sophisticated. The machine was heavy, 30 pounds of motors and mechanisms, housed in a case that was usually a shade of beige or gray that spoke of office professionalism. It plugged into the wall, drew serious wattage, and when you turned it on, you heard a hum that meant it was ready, waiting for your input. An IBM Selectric cost $400 to $500, $3,020 to $3,900 today, just for a typewriter. Most people wrote letters by hand or pecked them out on manual machines, but your father's correspondence was perfectly typed, professional, with the crisp authority that electric typing provided. This typewriter meant he worked from home sometimes, meant his work was important enough to require equipment, meant your family could afford tools that made professional life easier. Can you remember the vibration of that machine through the desk, the smell of the ribbon and correction tape, maybe being allowed to type your name, watching those letters appear like magic, mounted on a wall in the family room or taking up precious cabinet space, was something that marked your family as both modern and cultured. The 35mm camera system, not a Brownie or an Instamatic with fixed focus and limited capabilities, but a real camera system, a Nikon F, a Canon FTB, or a Pentax Spotmatic with interchangeable lenses, through the lens metering and manual controls for aperture and shutter speed. The camera body was metal, precision machined, with a weight that spoke of quality. When you picked it up, it felt substantial, serious, like a professional tool. The viewfinder showed exactly what the lens saw, with a focusing screen that split the image until you turned the focus ring and the two halves aligned perfectly. The shutter was mechanical, a curtain of metal blades that opened and closed in fractions of a second. 1/1000th for stopping fast action, 1/60th for normal shooting, full seconds for low light with a tripod. You advanced the film with a lever on top, each stroke moving the film one frame and cocking the shutter, ready for the next shot. The camera came with at least two lenses, a normal 50mm lens that saw the world roughly as your eye did, and either a wide-angle 28mm for landscapes and interiors or a telephoto 135mm for bringing distant subjects close. Each lens was a separate optical system, multiple elements of glass ground and coated to minimize distortion and maximize sharpness. Changing lenses meant pressing a release button, twisting the lens off with a satisfying click, and mounting another with equal precision. The film was 35mm, available in rolls of 24 or 36 exposures, in various speeds from ISO 25 for bright daylight to ISO 400 for indoor shooting. Each roll had to be loaded carefully in subdued light, threaded onto the take-up spool, advance 3 frames to get past the fogged leader. After shooting, you'd rewind the film manually, turning a crank while feeling the film release from the sprockets. Then the film went to a processor, either a local shop or mailed to Kodak, and returned a week later as slides and cardboard mounts or as negatives with prints. The camera body cost $200 to $400. Each additional lens, another $100 to $300, $1,160 to $3,120 for the body, $780 to $2,140 per lens in today's money. Most families had simple cameras that took acceptable snapshots, but your father was a photographer and the images he captured were sharp, properly exposed, composed with thought and care. Those slides, projected on a screen during family gatherings, looked almost professional. Can you remember the metallic sound of that shutter firing, the resistance of the film advance lever, the anticipation of waiting a week to see if you'd captured what you intended? If you had even 4 or 5 of these items, you were living in rare air. If you had most of them, you were genuinely wealthy by the standards of the time. And here's what's fascinating. Many of these things, color TVs, dishwashers, air conditioning, are now standard in middle-class homes, so common we barely notice them. But in 1970, they were extraordinary. They were the difference between ordinary and exceptional, between comfortable and rich. The world has changed so dramatically that some of these items seem quaint now, almost amusing in their obsolescence. Reel-to-reel tape recorders, Super 8 film, manual focus cameras. We have better technology in our pockets than existed in entire houses back then. But that's not really the point, is it? The point is what these things represented: aspiration, achievement, arrival. They were tangible proof that the American dream was real, that hard work could elevate your family to a different level, that your children would have advantages you didn't have growing up. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these did your family have? What did I miss that screamed wealth in your neighborhood? Was it a boat docked at the lake, a vacation home in the mountains, a piano that nobody played but looked impressive in the living room? Drop a comment below and let's keep this conversation going. I love hearing your memories and stories from this incredible era. And if this journey back to 1970 resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because we've got so many more nostalgic trips planned.